If you have been building with Flutterflow, you would know that the premise is true. It really helps you to move from idea to app as fast as possible. I mean, looking at their website, I'm saying 1.9 million users building with Flutterflow, which is really exceptional and really, really great. But the question I want to answer today is how much does Flutterflow really cost? Right? How much does it really cost to build an app with Flutterflow? My name is Paul. I help you build scalable MVPs with no code. And one of the tools that I use is Flutterflow, hence the reason why I'm talking about it today. So right here, if you come to the Flutterflow uh, pricing screen, you will see that it charges $0 per month. It's $22 for the standard plan and $50 for the Pro plan. That's if you're paying yearly, right? And then it has the enterprise plan, which you would have to contact sales in order for you to get access to it, right? But if you think that you're only going to be paying $70 a month for your application, then you're joking, right? You're joking and you're not ready to build a mobile app yet because there's a whole lot to think about. First, let me show you this article from Hacker that I was reading recently. This guy spent $30,356 in within 78 hours because their app was hosted on Firebase. So mind you, this app wasn't built with Firebase, but I'm just trying to draw inference from this particular article. And there was this tweet on Twitter recently where a person was charged, I think, about $78,000 within a day, simply because they used Firebase for their mobile application. Right. Um, so there are other articles saying Firestore is too expensive. There are lots of other articles, but what I'm driving at here today is that before or when you're building your mobile application with Firebase, as your backend, if you decide to use Firebase as your backend, because Firebase is just one of the options. You can use Superbase and a few other options like Xano to build your mobile app, right? So if you decide to say, I'm going to use Firebase, a few things that you must think about. First, you must discover how Firebase really charge you, right? How does Firebase really charge you? Firebase majorly will charge you for the number of read and the number of writes that you make in your application, right? If you're on the Blaze plan, you can always use this particular calculator to calculate how much you're going to be charged. If you look at the Cloudflare store, which you're likely going to be using a lot, it says if you are writing 600,000 writes and 1.5 million reads, then it's going to be free. But if you exceed this, then you're likely going to pay for it. And write and read, so you push it forward a bit, you can go down here and you see the total cost is about 1,000 a month. So that means when you're building your mobile application, you have to be very careful how many writes and how many reads you're making. That means your database has to be rock solid. You have to make sure that you're making very few data calls. Right, you're making very few data calls, you're making very few reads and very few writes in your application. Right. But mind you, that shouldn't stop you from building your application, right? Because as your app grows, right, as your app grows, you're definitely gonna make a whole lot of money to cover this. But I just want to say you want to be very careful when you're doing reads and writes. And also you want to be very careful with loops. Right, you want to be very, very careful with loops. So if you wrote a cloud function or a custom function, or you're using the Flutterflow default loops, and there is something that should keep on happening as long as something else is true, then you might have a whole lot of read. Like, let's say probably you want to keep on checking if a person has made a payment. You want to keep on checking. You created a script that's going to run every minute to keep on checking if a person has made a payment, then to do something else, then it's going to be very crazy. Or maybe you created a function that's going to check if a person's screen is open so you can do something. And that's going to be really crazy because you're creating reads per minute. So imagine you have like 10,000 visitors, right? 10,000, you have 10,000 downloads or 10,000 visitors, and they're doing like 2 million reads per day or whatsoever. So you're going to say 16,000 times multiplied by 2 million, and that's going to be a whole lot. That's going to be in billions, right? That's going to be in billions, and you know how much Google is going to charge you for that. So be careful of loops, be very, very careful of loops, and also be very careful of reading a whole document because you want to count something. Let's say, for example, this is your collection, and you want to count how many testimonials you have in your application. So what a lot of persons do is that they read the entire uh, um, testimonial documents, and then they count how many. You see what's happening. So if you have 10,000 testimonial documents, you're gonna count 10. You're gonna count everything. You're gonna have to read everything in order to count it. And let's say, for example, you are increasing a particular number every time there's a testimony. So it means if people are leaving 20 testimonies per minute in your application, it means that you're reading a particular collection 20 times. Every minute you're reading it 20 times. You're reading it because you're updating a particular figure. You're reading because you're updating a particular figure, which is very, very terrible. Don't worry, I'm going to show you a whole lot about database. I'm creating a course specifically for Firebase, for Flutterflow database, and we're going to explain a whole lot of it. Right, we're going to explain a whole lot. So that's something that you want to take into consideration. And also, and also, And also another thing you want to think about active users, right? Number of active users. You want to think about your cloud store. So that's why when you are loading images, tons and tons of images, high resolution images on your cloud storage, you have to be very careful. Because if you look at it here, it says 2,500 high resolution image. That's how much it can take. And if you go forward, you see, it increases, though it doesn't increase substantially because you're just paying, if you're only, you're just paying probably a few cents. But if you think of it that you're building maybe a social media application that requires people to send audio, send messages every single time, it means that this number is going to increase exponentially. It might not be too much, but it's going to be exponential because phones are becoming a whole lot more better at taking pictures, and those pictures, they're getting larger. So what you can do here is that you can always use a script, right? You can use a script to bring down the resolution while keeping the quality. Even for audios, you can use a script to bring down the resolution while keeping the quality of your application, right? And also, if you do not understand how much Flutterflow is charging you, even though there is a calculator here, what you want to do is that every time when you're moving your project from the normal plan to the base plan, right? When you're moving it there, it gives you a chance to set a budget, to add a budget. So let's say, for example, the amount of money you want to spend on your app is about 20 USD. So what you do is that you put the maximum budget as 20 USD so that when it's getting to that threshold, you're going to be sent a message and say, hey, you're getting to that threshold. So what will happen is that Google wouldn't spend way more than 20, irrespective of how bad your code may be, irrespective of the loop you're reading. Google is not going to spend more than 20. So that's a good thing. Set a budget, set a budget, and set an alarm for you. Set a notification for yourself so that Google notifies you whenever your backend is blowing up. Because I've really seen people, even in the testing phase of the application, pricing just keeps on going up. And another thing you want to do is that you want to explore all the backend solution. Superbase, yeah. So this is the thing about Superbase, right? $25, $5.99. So Superbase doesn't charge you for the number of reads you monthly. Doesn't charge you for the number of reads, or doesn't charge you for the number of writes. It mainly charges you for how many active users you have, how much disk space you use, bandwidth, file storage. That's what it majorly charge you for. But the things that you have to keep looking at this, you have to keep looking at this, and sometimes you might not really meet all of this, and you still get charged way higher than 25. So, but the chances of getting charged way more than 25, it's very, very slim. Right. So another thing that you have to think about is if you are running if you're running an AI application, if you're building an AI application, then you want to check out the cost also of OpenAI, right? I know a lot of persons will get free credit for OpenAI. You want to check how much OpenAI cost for you to use it, right? That's something you want to do. And another cost is if you decide to build a helper app somewhere else. So, for example, when I'm working with clients, sometimes I've worked with a few clients where I had to build some app right here on Heroku, something I could not really accomplish with functions. I could not really accomplish it with just by working on Flutterflow. Could not really accomplish it. I had to build a service right here, build an app right here that runs, that communicates with the database in Flutterflow and return something. So I built an API right here, hosted an API right here that would go back and forth. And these are also pricings that you should think about. But I think that there are new services now that can help you do this, right? Services like BuildShip, I think it's very, very cool. So services like BuildShip can really help you probably save a whole lot of cost in terms of hosting fee and the rest. But there might be some things you're unable to accomplish with BuildShip, or sometimes BuildShip might be too, might just be such a crazy job to do, and you just go ahead and build your own service on a different server and just host it there. You check out the pricing of BuildShip. It's pretty cool. So you have the free plan, starter plan, and the pro plan, and it just makes a whole lot of sense. Right. So these are the building cost, and then you think about app hosting cost, Apple service cost, Google service cost. Those are one-time fee anyway. Google is a one-time fee, but Apple is a yearly fee that you have to think about. I think if you consider all of those costs, it will enable you to think about your application development process a whole lot more, rather than just diving into it and thinking that everything is going to cost you $70 a month. It's something that you have to think. And most of this cost might not come immediately. It will come progressively. So it's something to prepare for. And I think I just remembered another cost that you have to think about will likely be analytics. You could use things like Pluxable, or you could stay with the default Google Analytics, Apple Analytics that work, but that's something that you have to think about also. Right. So thank you very much for watching. If you have a question on the cost, feel free to reach out to me. I'll definitely answer you. And if you're looking forward to building your minimum viable product, you want to launch it to the market, feel free to click on the link below. I'll definitely be willing to jump on a call with you to discuss your MVP requirement. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in a different lesson.